Ever get that feeling that history class only, scratch the surface?
Hmm.
Like there are whole chapters just missing. Tales of these incredible civilizations that just vanished.
Absolutely, like whispers in the background of history.
Exactly. Well, if you feel that way, you're definitely in the right place. Welcome to the deep dive.
Glad to be diving in.
You, our amazing listeners, sent over some seriously mind-bending articles recently. We've wrestled them to the ground, basically, to bring you the juiciest bits.
There was some really fascinating stuff in there.
Right. So today, we're plunging headfirst into the enduring enigma of Atlantis. And trust me, some recent finds are really shaking things up.
It's captivating, isn't it, how different fields like geology and archaeology are suddenly converging on this ancient mystery.
Totally.
The material you mentioned, it takes us on this incredible journey from like medieval times right back to millions of years ago.
Yeah.
And this theme keeps popping up, these lost, maybe advanced societies.
Okay, so let's dive into one that feels like stepping right into a legend, but a more recent one, kind of medieval Atlantis, the story of Rungholt.
Ah, Rungholt, yes.
Now, this isn't Plato's Atlantis, obviously, but the parallels are, well, they're pretty uncanny. Picture this. A bustling town, gone, vanished beneath the waves about 660 years ago.
Rungholt is such a fascinating case study. We have the historical accounts, sure, but now archaeology is adding this tangible layer. We know what took it out.
The flood, right?
The St. Marcellus's flood, yeah.
Yeah.
Back in 1362. And this wasn't just, a bit of coastal flooding. It
Yeah.
was a monstrous extratropical cyclone, a meteorological beast, really, unleashed this devastating storm tide across a huge stretch of coastline.
And the death toll was immense, wasn't it?
Reportedly around 25,000 people.
25,000.
Oh.
Wow. That just underlines the sheer scale of it. And just like Atlantis, Rungholt has its own legends, right? These dramatic stories.
Oh, absolutely. Tales of a prosperous place, brought down by the supposed sins of its people. Very Old Testament.
Tell us about that priest and the pig story that one seems to have really stuck around.
It's a classic morality tale, isn't it? The legend goes, some drunken young guys played this awful trick on a priest, forced him to give the last sacrament to a pig.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Understandably, the priest was furious, called down divine vengeance, and boom, soon after, the story says, the sea swallowed the town.
A cautionary tale, maybe.
Could be. Whether it's literal or just, a fable, it adds to the mystique. But what's really striking is how this real catastrophe, the flood, got tangled up with this folklore.
Yeah.
It shows how people process trauma, maybe, blending fact with, lessons.
Absolutely. But now, legend is meeting hard science. Researchers have actually found the remains, right, in the North Frisian Wadden Sea. How did they even manage that? It's all mud and water now.
It's pretty amazing tech, actually. They use these really sophisticated geophysical methods. Think of it like high-tech sonar and radar for seeing underground, or underwater in this case. Things like magnetic gradiometry, electromagnetic induction, marine seismic profiles. Basically, ways to map buried features without digging.
So what did this high-tech underwater detective work turn up?
A lot, actually. They found a 2-kilometer-long chain of medieval terps.
Tharps.
Yeah, artificial mounds. People built settlements on them to stay above the floodwaters, common in that area.
Oh, right. Makes sense.
And they found the layout of a really substantial church, plus extensive drainage systems. It points to, proper town planning.
A whole chain of mounds and a big church. This wasn't just some small village then.
Definitely not. The article suggested it might have been a main church for North Frisia.
Why is that a big deal?
Well, the size, the shape suggested by the magnetic data rectangular, maybe a semicircular part, it matches other big medieval churches in the area.
Right.
Likely late Romanesque design, maybe even had a tower. The researchers think it could have housed a clerical collegium.
A collegium, like a religious administrative center.
Exactly, making it a key religious hub for a pretty wide region. Ruth Blankenfeld, one of the archaeologists, basically called it a parish with a superordinate function.
So a really important church.
A very important church. Those magnetic anomalies, they're like finding the ghost footprints of the building in the Earth's magnetic field.
Incredible. And it wasn't just foundations, right? They found signs of, wealth, trade.
Oh, yeah. Spread across the settlement areas, they found high-quality imported goods.
Like what?
Things like lead-glazed redware, fancy stoneware, bronze cauldrons, both cast and hammered swords, even Hispano-Moresque faience. Pottery from Spain.
Wow, so they were trading far and wide.
Absolutely. Clear signs Rungholt was prosperous and well-connected through trade networks.
Man, so you get this picture of a sophisticated medieval town that just gone. A real-life sunken city story, just, more recent than Atlantis.
It really makes you think, doesn't it, how much history is just lost to the sea or buried by disasters.
It does.
And the researchers are really pushing this point. They're racing against time because the remains are eroding fast. They're often just these faint negative imprints in the mud. If they don't study them now, the sea might just wash away the last traces completely.
Yikes. Okay, so that's Rungholt, medieval Atlantis, swallowed by the North Sea. Now, let's jump back, way back, to something potentially much older, maybe the inspiration for Atlantis itself. Mount Los Atlantis.
Ah, yes, Los Atlantis. This one's really intriguing.
An enormous underwater mountain off Lanzarote, in the Canaries.
That's the one. It's huge, about 50 kilometers across, made up of 3 now dormant volcanoes.
Okay.
Its base is deep, like 100 down to 2,500 meters underwater.
Hmm.
And the geologist, Luis Somoza, he suggests this could be the origin of the whole Atlantis legend.
Okay, hold on. Why? What's the connection? How does an underwater mountain become Atlantis?
Well, a few key things line up. First, the location.
Right.
It's beyond the Pillars of Hercules. That's Plato's description, usually taken to mean the Strait of Gibraltar. The Canaries fit that perfectly. Geographically, it works.
Okay, location checks out. West of Gibraltar. But it's underwater now. Atlantis was an island that sank.
Exactly, and that's where the geology comes in. These weren't always underwater mountains. They were volcanic islands millions of years ago.
Millions. Like dinosaur times?
Not quite dinosaurs, but the Eocene epoch. So roughly 56 to 34 million years ago.
Okay.
And over immense timescales, as the volcanic activity stopped, the solidified lava made the islands denser and heavier, so they gradually, slowly sank beneath the waves.
Whoa. So literal sinking islands.
Potentially, yes. A geological process mirroring the myth.
That's a powerful image. And it fits the swallowed by the sea narrative.
Yep.
Is there actual proof they were above water, though?
There seems to be. Researchers, including Somoza, have identified features on the seamount's flat top that look very much like old coastlines.
Like what?
Things like distinct cliffs, what appear to be ancient sand dunes, even former beaches, features you'd expect on an island.
Yeah, ancient beaches.
Yeah.
Thousands of feet down. That's wild. And what about the Ice Age connection?
Right. During the last ice age, sea levels were way lower, maybe 120 meters lower than today.
Okay.
So Somoza suggests these volcanoes, already sitting there underwater, would have poked back up above the surface. They'd have become islands again.
For how long?
For thousands of years, potentially long enough for people maybe to have known about them or even lived there before the ice melted and the seas rose again, submerging them once more.
So you get this cycle of sinking, reappearing, sinking again.
Exactly. A real geological drama that could easily have become the basis for a legend passed down through generations, perhaps eventually reaching Plato.
It really makes you wonder if these ancient stories had roots in actual observed events. Are they still studying it?
Yeah.
Analyzing rocks?
Yes, that's ongoing. They're analyzing volcanic rock samples. The key is to pin down the timeline more precisely. When did these islands form? When did they sink? Did the timing align with potential human memory?
Getting those dates right would be crucial, wouldn't it?
Absolutely. It could make or break the connection to the Atlantis time frame.
Okay, Mount Los Atlantis is a strong contender, geologically speaking. But that article you shared, it mentioned a whole load of other potential Atlantis sites. It feels like people are finding Atlantis everywhere.
It does seem that way sometimes. The allure is just so strong. It's inspired so many searches from mainstream scientists to more independent researchers.
It's like a whole cottage industry.
Pretty much. Should we take a quick tour of some of the other big candidates?
Let's do it. First up, one that always grabs me because it's not even underwater. The Richat structure. The Eye of the Sahara.
Right, in Mauritania, it's this massive circular geological feature. Looks like a giant bullseye from space, those concentric rings.
They look so artificial.
They do, and proponents of the theory point to that, saying it matches Plato's description of Atlantis, the rings of land and water. Plus, its location is sort of near the Atlantic, and some satellite images seem to show faint lines that could, maybe, be ancient waterways leading towards the ocean. Fits the idea of a port city.
But the standard explanation is just geology, right? Erosion.
That's the scientific consensus, yes. A natural dome that's eroded over millions of years. But independent researchers argue the regularity is just too perfect to be purely natural. They see remnants of civilization.
It's that clash again, isn't it? Mainstream versus alternative interpretation.
Often, yeah. Different ways of looking at the same evidence, or maybe different ideas about what counts as evidence.
Okay, then there's the really wild one, Atlantis in Antarctica.
Ah, yes, the frozen Atlantis theory.
I remember reading something about shapes under the ice, geometric shapes.
That's the idea, that Atlantis wasn't sunk but frozen over. People point to radar scans, some as recent as 2023, showing these, well, unusual geometric patterns deep beneath the ice.
Structures.
Some interpret them as potential ancient structures, yeah. The official explanation. Unusual natural rock formations. But it definitely sparks the imagination, thinking about Antarctica having a warmer past.
It pushes the boundaries for sure. What about all those underwater ruins people keep reporting, like Yonaguni in Japan or of India or Cuba?
Those are persistent mysteries. You have these submerged sites with features that look very man-made.
Like walls and steps.
Exactly. Massive stone blocks, terraces, things that look like roads. But they're in places or at depths that challenge conventional timelines for advanced construction.
So what's the official take?
Generally, geology again. Natural rock formations that just happen to look artificial. But divers and some archaeologists are adamant they see human craftsmanship, evidence of forgotten civilizations, maybe Atlantis, maybe others.
And Mount Los Atlantis is still in the running, you mentioned, getting more attention from Spanish researchers.
Yes, definitely. They're actively linking their geological finds back to Plato's text, which keeps that theory very much alive.
Okay, now one I found really compelling was the Merlin Burrows discovery off the coast of Spain, near Doñana National Park.
Right, back in 2018, this private group used satellite data, they said, to find submerged ruins.
Temples and towers.
That's what they interpreted them as: ancient temples, circular foundations, maybe towers. And crucially, they estimated the age at 10,000 to 12,000 years old.
Which is right in Plato's ballpark for Atlantis.
Exactly. Plus, they reported evidence of a massive tsunami and even a long seawall, suggesting, a catastrophic end by water. It ticks a lot of boxes. Location near Gibraltar, age, destruction method.
That's pretty striking. What about those orichalcum ingots downed off Sicily? That metal screams Atlantis.
It really does, doesn't it? That mythical metal Plato described. Divers found these ingots in an ancient shipwreck about 2,600 years old.
And orichalcum is super rare, right?
Very rare outside of ancient texts. Plato said it was used all over Atlantis, second only to gold, finding actual ingots of a metal matching the description.
In a shipwreck on a trade route.
Precisely. It hints at possible trade with civilizations west of Gibraltar, maybe those connected to the Atlantis story.
Wow. Okay, and then those stone busts
Yeah.
in southern Spain, the Tortesos culture.
Ah, yes. From 2023. Beautifully carved busts from the Tartessian civilization about 3,000 years ago.
And they just disappeared.
That's the mystery surrounding the Tartessos. They vanished, leading to speculation linking them to floods or eruptions, drawing those parallels again with Atlantis' feet. It adds another layer: advanced ancient cultures meeting sudden ends.
It's a recurring theme. And what about that sunken island theory off Ireland? Friesland.
That's a different angle altogether. Offers an alternative to the Mediterranean focus.
Yeah?
The idea, proposed in 2019, is that this island, Friesland, which actually appeared on maps for a century or two before vanishing.
Wait, it was on maps.
Apparently, yes, up to the 16th or 17th century. The theory is that was Atlantis, and maybe Rockall, that tiny islet way out west, is the last visible peak.
A North Atlantic Atlantis.
It challenges the standard geography, definitely.
And back to Spain one more time. Those circular structures off Chipiona. You mentioned they look like Plato's description.
Extremely so, according to reports, found using sonar. Huge, wall-like circular formations, some incredibly tall, up to 1,400 feet.
That tall, underwater.
Apparently. And they seem to match Plato's description of Atlantis having concentric rings of dwellings. Divers even reported seeing squared, seemingly man-made stones.
Like engineered structures.
That's the suggestion, yeah. Directly mirroring Plato's account of an artificial island.
Okay, last one, the Nuraghi on Sardinia. Those ancient forts.
Right, over 7,000 of these Bronze Age megalithic fortresses. Really impressive structures.
And they were destroyed.
Many in the south show signs of massive destruction and burial. The theory. Maybe a huge tidal wave.
Like the one that supposedly hit Atlantis.
Exactly. There's evidence for major catastrophic events in the Mediterranean in the last few thousand years. While it's not confirmed as the Atlantis event, a huge wave destroying an advanced island civilization. It resonates strongly with the myth.
Okay, wow. So you might be sitting there listening thinking, okay, are all these places Atlantis? And yeah, that's kind of the point, isn't it?
I think so.
These discoveries, they're all fascinating on their own. But taken together, maybe they paint a bigger picture.
Exactly. It suggests that this whole idea of advanced lost civilizations, maybe destroyed by cataclysms, might have a real basis in historical events, even if Atlantis itself is still debated, or maybe it was more than one place, or a memory of different events combined.
It's like we're finding these scattered puzzle pieces, echoes of some grand, forgotten story.
Precisely. Each find, whether it's Rumholt's medieval tragedy or Los Atlantis' deep geology or these other strange anomalies, they offer these tantalizing glimpses, possibilities of worlds and societies erased from the standard history books.
So wrapping up this deep dive, we've hit Runholt, the potential medieval Atlantis. We've looked at Mount Los Atlantis, a possible geological origin for the myth. And we've touched on this incredible array of other sites underwater, under ice, under sand, all fueling the debate.
It's clear the full picture, the definitive answer about Atlantis, is still elusive, which, in a way, keeps the mystery alive, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. Hopefully this dive has given everyone listening some really compelling stuff to chew on, a sense of the ongoing search to understand our planet's pretty weird and wonderful past.
And maybe an appreciation that the ancient world might have been far more complex, more connected, and maybe more vulnerable than we often give it credit for. These stories persist for a reason, perhaps.
It really makes you wonder, doesn't it? If so many different cultures, separated by time and geography, all have these similar myths, great floods, lost golden ages, vanished lands, what fundamental truths about our collective history are we still just beginning to uncover?
A profound thought to end on.
Thanks so much for taking this deep dive with us today. Until our next exploration into the unknown.